As recorded live for Australian Television Broadcast Corporation. Interview with Vincent Cohenhoven, co-founder of PT Train College and the Fitness Success Institute.
So tell me, how long have you been in the fitness industry for?
Fitness industry, as a trainer, I've been training for over 15 years. I've moved my way through from just running my own business. So I worked for Les Mills, Fitness First, Good Life, a lot of super clubs and some of the smaller clubs. Run my own business, had multiple trainers working under me, and in the last position I had was a national director of one of the super clubs for about 4 years, where I had the opportunity to develop and design all their PT systems. So that's quite cool.
So you have an extensive amount of background.
Yeah, played sports since I was 3,
Okay.
competitively over 2 decades, and then it was just a natural progression.
So it's a passion of yours.
Yeah, lifestyle.
Lifestyle, yeah, that's nice. Okay. So why did you choose personal training as a career?
PT, sort of training 5 days a week and competing twice a week. Health and sport was just something I did. But it was actually an injury. I had a spinal injury a long time ago, and it took me about 2 years to do rehab to get back to a competitive level. But after 2 years it relapsed, so it was quite disheartening to do everything you're doing or being told to do diligently, and then it all fell apart. And when I got reassessed by some new experts that I found, all the rehab I'd done, probably about 90% of it was actually incorrect. So that was my turning point. Well, there's got to be a way you can get the correct information out to people, and PT was the vehicle for me to do that. So that's how I actually got into the training side of it.
So I guess in a way it would have been like a blessing in disguise for you.
Yep. Yeah, I found my career path. And it's what I love doing, sport, being healthy and playing, really, at the end of the day.
And how was it when you first started working?
There wasn't any support systems when I started. It was very much hit and miss. Like, you got your education for a Cert 3, Cert 4 as it's now banned, but there was no business skills, very little programming skills, no mentoring programs or anything. So you really were thrown out as a trainer, and then if you didn't have a good network of support at the club, you just sank or swam, basically. And the funny thing is, I've been doing it over 15 years, it's still the same. There's not a lot of networks out there for guys today. So you really do have to find people that you can mentor, or coaching systems of some sort, to get the ideas on how to run a business. 80% of the business in Australia now is subcontract or franchise, so you can actually run your own business in the big clubs or the little clubs, which is a great opportunity, but unfortunately in the national package there's no real in-depth skills to accommodate that. So I found that we basically trial things each month in sales, and it was hit and miss. You test and measure it. Some months were really good, some months you lose 5 clients, and then when you but not by losing clients. It was a bit hard. But we tested and measured it. So if you lost 5 clients, you'd ring them and say, look, this is what I tried this month for these reasons. And sometimes, or most of the times, they'd say, well, that's actually why I left. So then you had the opportunity to correct it, but you'd only correct about 50%. So when you found something that worked really well, you'd run with it.
You'd run with it,
but I learned most of my stuff with mentors. I just hooked on to the top 5 trainers in the gym I was working in, and just questioned them on a daily basis. What do you do? Paid for it. Just borrowed all their systems, learned off them, reworded them, checked them with them.
That's the best way to go about doing it, I guess. Like mentoring and modelling the experts. And then, going from there. Definitely. Did you have any difficulties when you first started out?
Oh yeah, a lot of confidence difficulties. Like when I started, I spent the first 2 years in a little country club. So that was quite good. I just worked as a wage, so I felt my way in with that. So that was quite good. That was a good introduction for me. And then after that, I went to the big Les Mills club, where there's about 80 trainers, 12,000 members. It was huge. So yeah, didn't have any systems to run with in there. So once again, learning curve, very steep, fast learning curve. The biggest problem I had and I still see a lot of trainers today, was prospecting walking the floor. I used to actually get ill thinking about walking and prospecting the floor because there was that many people. So I used to, get the fevers, actually be sick. It would take me about an hour to talk myself, to psych myself up to walk the floor. The thing I did find is once I spoke to one person, completely relaxed. So what I did was set up targets that I had to hit on a daily basis, how many people to talk to, how many leads to get, stuff like that. And once I started, I was like, okay, I'd go for hours and hours. But getting started was very hard. So what I introduced and learned to do was make shields up to walking the floor. So that was probably the...
Make shields up?
Yeah, like if people go, I'm not interested in personal training, it's like, well, we're doing a survey on this. So I found ways to keep the conversation going.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So that was probably the biggest thing that really sticks out in my mind, because as a fitness trainer or a personal trainer, whether you're doing coaching or PT in a club, your best marketing is talking to the members. Because they are the people that are going to train.
That's right.
And they're in the gym, so
yeah.
we're going to find mechanisms to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And was there ever a time when you felt like it was all too hard and wanted to quit?
Oh yeah. I believe the first 6 months was very much like that, especially the first 3 months, because you're thrown in the deep end. You're given all this information from college and everything, you learn it, but then when you get into the real world, it's like, how do I apply it? Yeah, so if you don't have your systems set up, or an idea on systems, that's very, very daunting. So, you've got to learn to budget, your financial planning, how do you market, how do you communicate to people, because there's so many different ages and different cultures. I did used to worry about what other people were thinking about me all the time, which was, you want to drop that as fast as possible and just be confident in yourself, but that was something that used to weigh on my mind. And then how to sell, like how do you actually sell to people, because there's nothing negative about personal training at all. All the benefits of a good trainer. Now if you turn around and start making people vomit, which you shouldn't do anyway, because you're overtraining them. The body's shutting down at that point. So if you take that out and you're not making them sore for a whole week that they can't walk, there's no negative issues about personal training at all. It's all positive. But learning how to project that to a member and turn it into a sale was very challenging, especially in the early stages. In the first 3 to 6 months, all you're worried about was, I've got to make rent, so I have to sell this many packages. When that just put pressure and stress on itself. So if you can go in and just thinking, I'm going out there to help people, if you're into it, cool. If they're not, I give them all 100%, and then your numbers will start coming. So the first 6 months is definitely the toughest. If you can go in and know your numbers in the first 6 months, that's when the hardest startup phase for PT is, and doing all the sales. After that 6 months, if you've done your job properly, you should start to work into referrals, so you don't have to keep selling. So eventually, the really good trainers after 6 months to a year don't do any sort of sales anymore. It's all referrals coming in, which is a lot more comfortable.
Were there any helpful resources back then?
No. Management. Biggest resource I had back then was me. Ask questions, because there was no manuals. We're talking sort of 18 years ago when I started, and self-employed PTs were only 2 or 3 years old. So not originally when I started. After about 3 years, manuals started coming out, support systems. But originally, no, just find a good mentor. Find someone that's successful and copy what the hell they're doing. That's the best thing I can say. As long as it's ethical and professional, of course.
What are your specialties as a personal trainer?
Turning up on time. So many trainers don't turn up on time. It's frustrating. My specialty, the first couple of years I did bodybuilding, general weight loss, and then once I had my sort of injury, I moved more into corrective exercise. So specialised in spinal injuries, shoulder reconstruction, heavy surgery sort of stuff, and then athletes. So from the weekend warrior athletes to professional athletes, being individual teams. so I don't really do sort of the general weight loss anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I specialise in those areas. If I have a critical client come to me with weight loss issues, I'll use a dietitian.
Okay.
I've very much learned, don't be a monkey of all trades. Specialise what you're passionate in.
Yeah.
Follow that and network with a specialist to accommodate for other ones. You get better results.
Good tip. Yeah. And how did you move into the area, like further education? Or?
Yes, continuously doing short courses is mainly what I did. Like a couple of short courses through university, but then a lot of physio style work. I worked with physios for about 5 years. I'd go in 2 hours a week, pay for the time, and just pick their brains.
Okay.
And then up there. And then a lot of short courses like the Paul Check staff, core stability. So yeah, continuous education from more so, not so much the academic side of the world, but more so experts in the industry that have a track record
Okay. Yeah.
and doing their short courses and stuff like that. But I aim to do 2 courses every year, still do.
Wow.
So now I'm doing business coaching and stuff like that, and wellness.
So just expanding your knowledge.
Keep going, yeah.
Yeah.
The old saying, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Agree and disagree. Knowledge is a power when you apply it,
Yeah.
but you've at least got to keep your knowledge up.
Yeah, definitely.
So short courses is the way to go.
Okay. Where have you worked?
For PT, pretty much country clubs, a couple of years in those, and then a number of years with Les Mills World Fitness in Auckland. It's 2 4-story buildings, 12,000 members.
Wow.
It's huge. I love the atmosphere in
That's
there.
been fun, yeah.
It's great. And then I've worked I came over to Australia after that because it was in New Zealand. I worked in Noosa for a little while in a little studio.
Mm-hmm.
And then moved into Brisbane. I worked for Fitness First. I did a little bit of Body for Life training, and then went to Good Life. And then after Good Life, I set up a college that we're in. So I've been around a little bit.
Okay.
So, but I like the super clubs. I
Yeah.
do like the big environment.
Okay.
So
Just for the more people.
I like the energy.
Like the energy, yeah.
Yeah. Like I love the small clubs, like the little studios I worked in were great. But for me personally, long term, the big environment. I mean, it's me being a little bit lazy. But if I've got 3,500 members all coming into me, I don't have to do a lot. I work very smart in that industry. As with the studio, you have to go to the community and create your work. So it's still worthwhile, it's just that little bit harder. So I sort of, with my PT, I honestly see it as the easier road because it's, you got 3,500 members in the same walls every single day or over a week. You don't have to travel out in the community and advertise to businesses and stuff like that. But you still have to be very calculated and have your test and measuring systems inside the walls of what you do.
Yeah.
So I love the environment of the big club.